Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Heavy Branches. We're super excited to be in John chapter 11 this week. But before we get going there, Cabe, we're going to start with you. How's it been going?
Everything's been going pretty well. Things have been good here. I'm trying to think what's been happening this weekend. I got to go to a deer camp, which was a lot of fun with some guys from the churches in the area, and we had a really good Sunday morning and Sunday night. We've been in Deuteronomy, and I love preaching and studying through books of the Bible that we don't talk about as much or that I don't know as much about, which Deuteronomy definitely falls in that list for me. And so that was just, it's been a blast preaching through that. And then this week, a local church called Crooked Creek Christian Church, it's in Estill County, has been doing a revival with Dick Chambers. He's down for the week. And so we got to go fellowship with those Christians down there and get to see Dick Chambers and all that. And it was a blast. So if you're in the area, if you're, in, what was this, East, not Eastern Kentucky, but we're getting there. We're about an hour outside of east from Lexington. So if you're in the area, we definitely invite you to come out to Crooked Creek. It's tonight, and then Wednesday is their last night, and it starts at 7. So I know they'd love to have you out if you're in the area. But so everything's going really good. Just a lot of fellowship and a lot of fun things that's been happening. So how about you, Tam?
Always busy. Unfortunately, we've had I think the number's up to 5 now, church members in the last month that have passed. So it's been kind of a difficult month in that sense, just because you hate to lose people that are so faithful, and so that's been sad. But also we're most of it has been very celebratory because we know where they're going, and that's good. That keeps it from being overly devastating, I guess. And you miss them because they're gone, but you're gonna see them again, so that's good. But I'm 2 weeks away from finishing the longest series I've ever preached, and maybe the longest series I ever will preach. I don't know. But that's not true. I'm going to preach through Deuteronomy next year, so that'll beat that. But it's been really good. It has been. I've studied these topics a lot, but prior to deciding that I was going to preach the series. That's one of the reasons I chose to. But I've still had to study a significant amount through this series, and some of the topics have been sensitive. Some of them have been just difficult to preach, and that's not a complaint. That's just the reality of it. But I think it's gone well. I know I needed it, and I know the people here needed it. I'm excited though to soon move into Revelation, and that's going to be a very overall, I think it'll be a very joyful series. We're going through Hosea on Sunday evenings, and that's gone well so far. But I'm trying to think of what else has been going on. Willow had a checkup yesterday. She's healthy. She's confirmed to be tall, just like I thought. She's, I think, 80th percentile or something in height, and so she just keeps growing. Yeah, it won't be too long. Maybe when she hits middle school, she'll be taller than Cabe.
Yeah, we'll be out.
And let's see what else is going on. Kenzie's getting super close to being done with her school for when she starts, and then she'll have to do some student teaching. But she'll be done with actual classes here really soon, most likely by the end of the month. So that's pretty cool. And Yeah, we got a lot of exciting things we're working on for next year. It's just getting those plans figured out and finishing out the year with all the different things we got going on here. Thanksgiving coming up and the Christmas season soon to follow. So overall, pretty good though. Simpson, how you doing?
Doing a lot better today than I have been the rest of this past week. I getting over some sickness, just that time of the year for me with how my allergies are, and so I'm glad to get moved past all of that. I didn't go to the doctor, so I don't know what I had, but it wasn't fun. Felt kind of like the flu, but I finished up my sermon series on going through some of the different miracles that Jesus did. So that was a fun series to preach. It was different. I don't. I'm not super experienced with preaching narrative sermons, um, but all of those were narrative sermons. So that was good to broaden the horizons a little bit and get some more experience preaching different styles of sermons. My family was able to come up on Sunday morning, and so they got to be with us for worship service and got to have lunch with them before they had to head back home to Northern Kentucky. But it was so good to see them, and all of them were able to come up. So both my parents and brother and sister all made it up. So it was really good to see them and get to spend the Sunday afternoon with them a little bit. So things are going good.
So I have, guys, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I have a really important question that I need you guys to answer for me. We've been having a discussion in our household. Me and Meg have kind of had a little bit of a disagreement. So I wanted you guys, this is a terrible idea, but I want you guys to give me your thoughts. Maybe we can settle it. What is the correct time to put up Christmas decorations? When is it okay to start listening to Christmas music and start putting up the decorations? What do you guys think?
Um, I have a preemptive question. Is I think I know the answer to this, but is Meg wait till after Thanksgiving, or is are you the one that says wait till
You want to
after
know whose
Thanksgiving?
side you're taking before you give us a truthful answer?
No, no, no. I have an answer that will stay the same, but I'm curious.
So you guys would think that because of my attitude and who I am, that I would be like Christmas, but I want to enjoy it in that small section of time, and so like I don't know, I'm a wait until after Thanksgiving and put up tree and we make it a big deal, and then but Meg she loves Christmas and she wants to hold it as long as possible, and so she's like now, which I'm totally fine with, but she wants to do it now and get everything up and sing the songs. But I would, if I had my complete choice, I would probably wait.
So you're right. That is surprising, but the answer is whenever your wife says, "Let's put up the tree goes up."
So that's exactly what I just said. I said I would rather wait, and we're putting it up. So there you go. Tanner is.
So,
That's the answer. Yeah.
so
I, I'm
my mom and my sister are just like Meg, Cabe. I mean, there's been years in the past that they've had the decorations up before Halloween, before October 31st, and so they are huge Christmas junkies. I mean, absolutely love it. And so my whole life, I've always said, wait till after Thanksgiving, wait till after Thanksgiving, and I still stand by that. But there's one exception, and the exception happened this year. I think if it snows before Thanksgiving, I think it's okay to put up the decorations when it first snows, because it snowed here this week, and I wasn't expecting it. But when I looked out the window and just it was just all white and snow was falling, it felt like Christmas time, even though it's not Thanksgiving yet. So that I think that's going to be my new stance on it after I had that happen, that feeling this week. After Thanksgiving, unless it snows, because I feel like once the first snow hits and I look out the window and there's snow on the ground, that just feels like Christmas time.
And I think I'm with you because I'm kind of changing on my stance mainly because when Meg is in Christmas mode, she makes cookies and I get eggnog. And so, like, I'm like, she made some chocolate chip cookies and some, I don't know, I've never had this before, but she candies popcorn. like she pours the like sugar mixture that makes like things hard, and it is fantastic. So like because of the sweet treats and the eggnog I get to drink, I'm happy right now. And
So
I was
also,
gonna just be like,
oh man, always keep this in mind, Tanner. If you ever need Cabe to change a deep, heartfelt, strong conviction, just get some sugary treats for him, and you can win him over to your side.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I I really I enjoy celebrating Christmas, just as much as anybody else. But I really don't. I've never and still do not have an opinion on. It just goes up when it goes up when the family says let's do it, and that's all right. So
I
that's
do
kind
have
of
a
where I've been.
very important question for Jacob. Are you decorating your home? And are you going to celebrate?
I'm gonna get so much flack for this, but I currently have no plans to do any Christmas decorations, purely because I don't own any. I just moved out a few months ago, and I don't feel like going and buying a bunch. So yeah, I have no plans to have a Christmas tree or any kind of Christmas decorations. I'm not
If
the
you
Hey,
Grinch.
all,
I don't
Hey, we should split a little pre-decorated Christmas tree and send it to his house.
see, that's what I was saying. You can go to the Dollar Tree and you can get a little 6 foot tree. It's not very nice, but you can get a $10 Christmas tree, get some candy canes, at least put something up. It makes me sad thinking that you're gonna just have nothing. But
eh, that's all right.
so if you
It's
all,
it's it's kind of nice sitting there, you know, playing on your computer, like gaming and stuff, or watching TV, and you look over and there's a nice bright Christmas tree standing there.
Well, it'll run out the electric bill. It's sitting there plugged in, and I think I'll be all right without it.
bah humbug. If you all think that Jacob needs to decorate his house, then let us know
You
and flood him with comments because I think he's wrong. So I think he
And
would be just a little more joyful if he had some lights twinkling in his home.
know, I agree. I
just
agree.
So let
you
him
buy
know.
the decorations, and then it's all this work getting them put up, and then you got to take them down, and then it's sad when you take them down. And like I said, the Christmas tree run up the electric
I
bill.
you can get a pre-decorated Christmas tree.
At least get a Charlie Brown tree. You guys seen that? You know what I'm talking about? The little
Yeah,
just one ornament.
and
You could get an inflatable tree.
but I'm not even going to
Stop.
be spending Christmas at my own house. I'm going to go back to my parents' house and have Christmas with them. So, like on Christmas morning, on Christmas Day, I'll be at a place with decorations, if that helps.
Well, like I said, if you think Jacob should decorate his house, let us know. Or let him know,
I'm,
not
I'm
us.
just I'm just not much of a decorator, I guess. I don't know.
Oh man. Well, I'm excited about that. I don't know about you all, but I have been looking forward to this chapter in John. There are some chapters that I'm just passages I get really pumped about. Um, John 11 is one of them, so I'm really excited about our discussion today.
Yeah, it's a very special passage. One that you can look at again and again and always find something new. I think, which is how all of Scripture works. But this one's definitely a good one for that. Kay, why don't you kick us off as we hop in here?
Yeah, so starting, of course, we've got a verse 1. We always do. We start out, and if you're looking on in your Bible, the title is talking about the death and resurrection of Lazarus. That's what mine says, Lazarus. And so we see Mary, Martha, they're sisters. Those people should find familiar. And it kind of gives us a description. It says Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with ointment. We remember that account. Dropped down, spent was it a year wages or something like that, some very expensive ointment, and used her own hair or something, and wiped her own hair, and then it was her brother who's sick. So we got brother Lazarus, who is sick, and the sisters Mary and Martha. And the sisters, they had faith previously in the Lord. We know that. And so they sent word. We know that our brother's sick. It's not looking really good. And so they sent word to Jesus and said, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. We get some important details. First, Mary and Martha has faith in Jesus, have a relationship with him. But also, we get the detail that Jesus himself loves Lazarus. He who you love is sick. So you can do something about this. And they know the only one that can truly make the sick healed, or the one that can do miraculous things, is Christ. So they reach out to him. I also love verse 4. And if there's something, cut me off, guys. But I love verse 4 where he says he heard what they said about Lazarus and said, this sickness is not the end in death, but for the glory of God, so the Son of God may be glorified by it. And I'm sure this brought them some hope hearing this, that there would be glory in it. But this is also Jesus, being the Son of God, sees things differently and knows things that they didn't know. And so he's saying that he will be glorified through what's about to happen. But as we go on in this passage, we're going to see that there were some mourning, some pain, some things that we don't want to go through happen before the glory of Christ is really seen. And so as it progresses, pay attention that even though bad things are going to happen in our sense, the things we don't want to go through, God is still glorified. And in the end, if God is glorified, then we know that's for the best. And so pay attention to that as we walk through it.
Yeah. Another thing with verse 4 that I was considering as I read through it, I was sitting down with our friend CJ one time, talking about a situation going on, and he said never waste a tragedy. And you want to take time to work through the tragedy, but his point was that a lot of good can be done when you don't waste the opportunity of where people's hearts are at when a tragedy comes. And there's a lot of situations that you could apply that in, but I don't know if there's a more important time or situation to take advantage of a tragedy when a person's heart is softened because of loss, and you use that opportunity to share the gospel with them. And like I said, there's a lot of application to that phrase, never waste a tragedy, but it's not that you don't care about the fact that somebody has lost somebody close to them, or that you don't have compassion for the situation they're in, but it's that in moments of tragedy, that's when people realize that more than any other time that they need Christ. And we shouldn't waste it. We shouldn't let those moments go by. And in this case, Jesus, he knows a tragedy is coming, as we see here, as we're going to see. He knows before the rest of the disciples do that Lazarus is actually dead. He's not just sick, but has passed away. And he says that this is going to be for the glory of God. And he says it's not going to end in death, but that doesn't mean that death isn't going to happen. But the glory of God is going to be seen. And so he's already planning that a tragedy is going to occur, but the glory and greatness and power of Christ is going to be seen through this tragedy. And it is a good thing for us to have that same mindset. When tragedy comes, let's remember that the power and glory of Christ that can be seen through that.
And I think that's so true because, Tanner and Jake, you guys know if when you do funerals and things like that, you have opportunities not only to encourage, but also to speak where hope is found. And I really like that. That's good, Tanner.
The next thing that I wanted to bring up was in verse 8. It says, "The disciples said to him, 'Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again?' And he answers them, and eventually they just decide that they're going to go. But what I find important here and interesting is that Jesus was going to he was going to go, and he was going to accomplish his mission, even though there was he was facing this potential harm, or even potential death. And we just a few verses later, we see Thomas in verse 6, or is it verse 16? Yeah, in verse 16, it says, Thomas said, 'Let us also go so that we may die with him.'" So they have it in their mind that Jesus is going into a trap. Basically, he's going to die. So I bring this up because, number one, Jesus was going to go regardless of what came before him. He was going to accomplish his mission. But secondarily, the disciples following him were going to go with him. They were going to they counted the cost here, and they decided that what was most important was following Jesus. And so, kind of a question to consider. This is more rhetorical than anything, but are we going to follow him into battle? Are we going to follow him no matter what the consequences are, the worldly consequences are? Because when we follow him, regardless of what the worldly consequences are, there are eternal consequences, positive ones that will come as a result.
And I think, Tanner, that we got to put some respect on Thomas's name.
Yeah.
We call him Doubting Thomas. He's ready to die. He's not doubting here. I love what he says. He said, "Let's go also. If Jesus is dying, I'm ready. I want to die with him." If that's not a statement of, faith, let's go. I don't know if I could say that about me. I'm ready to die for Jesus. Like, I just love that. And so when you say Doubting Thomas, remember, here in this passage, there was no doubt. He was ready to die for Jesus, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I call him Believing Thomas here. Believing Thomas.
He didn't understand why Jesus was going to do what he was doing.
No.
But he was willing to follow regardless.
Hey, that's my bread and butter. That's where I want to be. I don't understand things at times, but I want to let's get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing we got to notice is that we can't skip the detail that Jesus stayed 2 days. They said, come now, and they're expecting Martha and Mary. Hey, the one you love, he's sick. He might not make it. They're expecting him to go, "Oh, let's go," but that's not what he did. He stayed 2 days. And then he said, "Okay, now I'm gonna come and I'm gonna go." And we see if you go down a couple verses, we see tragedy is about to strike. We see that verse 17, when he gets there, he found that he had already been in the tomb for 4 days. So he had already passed. Jesus was too late. He hadn't been there. And there was a group of Jews that were comforting Martha and Mary, knowing what had happened. And then Martha, we know Martha, she's the one that was cleaning, asking Jesus, she's the one that's the go-getter. And Martha, when Jesus finally came in verse 21, she was upset. She was like, Jesus, she knew that what Jesus could have done. She said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Even now I know whatever you ask God, he will give you." And so Martha says, "Why, Jesus?" And I just wanted to spend a moment here because we know that Jesus loves us. He's gave us salvation. We know that through His Son. We know how God feels about us. But there are times that we go, well, why? Why did I have to go through that pain? Why did I have to lose that person? Why did this happen to me? And I think it's important to see that this is where Martha was. She even said, I know that God will give you whatever you ask for, but you weren't here. And Jesus said to her, and this is really important because Jesus knew, the eternal plan of God. Jesus, is Son of God, says, your brother will rise again. He'll rise again. And then I think, Jacob, you want to talk about this for a second. And Martha said something really cool in verse 24. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really like your response here. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And I just want to read what Martha says here in the next few verses. There's a little back and forth, but starting in verse 24, Martha said to him, to Jesus, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life, and he who believes in me will live, even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? And she said to him, Yes, Lord. I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. So there are different confessions of faith that we read throughout the scriptures. Peter, of course, he has a popular one. And I think Martha's here flies under the table a little bit. I don't think we always talk about her confession here, but right there in verse 27, it's a pretty powerful statement. Yes, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. Such a powerful statement of faith to make at any time in life, but especially during a time of grief like this, a time of great sorrow with the passing of Lazarus, for her to still see Jesus clearly enough to be able to say this and recognize this. Yes, I know who you are, and I know that you are the resurrection and the life, and that Lazarus, he's going to come back on the last day because he believed in you. And just to have that clarity of mind during a time of such grief and sorrow, I think is really cool to note here. I don't know if you guys have anything else on that, but that's always the way I've kind of thought about it.
Yeah, I think it doesn't need to be passed up. And I don't think we need to pass up what Jesus said either. One thing that I've been trying to pay attention to, someone told us that we should look at the life and death statements in the scripture, that we shouldn't pass them up because it's a yes or no, life or death. And we have one of those here. Verse 26, Jesus had talked, said, I'm resurrection and life. Who believe in me will live even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Whoever believes in Jesus will never die. We know that's still applicable today. I love that he asked, do you believe this, Martha? And yes, Lord, I believe that. Even the one who comes into the world. I love that, this still reigns true to us today, that we must have faith in him, that who believes, and we know that comes through obedience then.
A couple years ago, we were at the CRA seminar, and Johnny Presley started his sermon, and he made the statement, there are some things that you cannot change. And there's a lot of application to that, but specifically pertaining to this, there are some things in life that we can't change, and one of those things is death. We can't change the fact that from the moment we're born, our bodies are slowly dying. We can't change the fact. The scriptures teach us that we can't do good enough to save ourselves, and save ourselves from eternal damnation, which is the second death. But the reason that I think that phrase is so interesting, that there are some things we can't change, is in this context, there are some things that we can't change, but our Lord can.
That's good.
He has the power. He holds the power and authority over life and death, and he is the one. He can change uh, where we're headed. He can change our state, our relationship with God, and that's a powerful thing. And we're going to see by the end of this chapter, him prove that, him show that.
Yeah, and I love that statement that, there's things that can't change, but we know one that can change those things that we cannot change, but Jesus can. And I just want us to pay attention here. In the next section, starting verse 28, we see a mourning. We see what it looks like to lose a loved one. And I know that probably everyone listening and everyone here knows what it's like to lose someone you love. And when you read this is exactly what it's like in our own lives, because we know that she said this is Martha. She went away to marry her sister. You got to be together. And says, the teacher is calling for you. And she heard this and ran to him. I just love that. And then Jesus, not come in the village, but still was in the place that Martha was at. Verse 30, and then the Jews were with her, consoling her, and then they went up and followed, because she was going to go to the tomb to weep. And then therefore, when Mary came where Jesus was, saw him, fell to his feet. And notice what she says again. This is not Martha, this is Mary. If you had been there, my brother would have not died. If you would have just done something, Jesus. If you would have been there, if you wouldn't have stayed, I know for a fact that he would still be alive. And I love, it says Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews saw her weeping. It says Jesus, Son of God, was deeply moved in his spirit and was troubled, and said, where did you lay him? They said, come, Lord, and see. And then probably one of the most famous verses in the Bible, 35, it says Jesus wept. Jesus wept. We were talking, and there's a couple of different reasons we're going to talk about why Jesus did this. But I believe one of the reasons he did was because his spirit was moved from seeing Mary and Martha. You see, he loved Lazarus. He loved Mary and Martha. And to see them crying and mourning over the death of their brother, the one he loved too, I don't think Jesus was just mourning just because, Lazarus is gone. I think he saw them and wept with them, with her. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk about, if we truly want to make disciples and we want people to come to Jesus, we have to see people where they're at and mourn with them. And sometimes that means weeping, and that's sometimes feeling, hey, I know you're hurting so deeply, and that's okay. That's okay. And then just knowing that, the only way we find peace and comfort in that is Christ. But I just love that Jesus saw her weeping and he wept too.
Yeah, if we just back up for a minute to what we were talking about at the beginning about not wasting a tragedy.
Oh yeah.
If we don't show compassion towards people in those moments of tragedy, then we will waste it. If we don't show people the heart of Christ, like he shows here compassion for their loss, then we're going to waste it by pushing them beyond what they're ready to handle, I guess, is the way I think maybe best to put it. Another thing to consider here, maybe this is maybe one of the most prominent passages of scripture that we have that show that Jesus is fully human. We again and again, John has stressed throughout the book that Jesus is the Son of God. He is fully God. But we have a moment here where we see the human nature of Christ, and that's important. But I also think it goes even beyond that, and that his name is Emmanuel, God with us. He came to experience life among us, He knows. Uh, he's experienced the tragedy and the loss and the temptation and all of these things that we experience. But I think it's important for us to remember that being God, he understands and has experienced more loss than anybody because he's experienced every loss of life from the very beginning. Death was never supposed to be a thing. Um, he didn't create us to die, he created us to live, but sin brought death into the world. And he has had to endure that from the very beginning. And so he understands the loss that we feel more than anybody else in the world. He can relate to that, and we see a very important moment of that here in verse 35. If we if we want to imitate God as Christ does, if we want to bear fruit, if we want to be his disciples, then we need to have this kind of compassion and understanding in moments of tragedy and loss, and in other cases as well.
Notice too, verse 36. This is important because we're talking about bearing fruit, and we're talking about being able to point people to Christ, and that doesn't happen if we have if we don't have compassion and love. Notice the Jews who have been, every single time Jesus does something, what do? They go back at him, they question him, they doubt him. But some said, "See how he loved him." That's important. Some looked at what Jesus, his mourning for Lazarus and his crying with Martha and Mary, or with Mary here, and they said, "Look at how much Jesus loved him." You see, that's our goal. Is we don't just do it, to show compassion, because we're commanded to, but we should genuinely love others, and it should be seen that we love others with our compassion for them. And I just love that.
As the passage continues on, they take him to where Lazarus is laid, and they ask him to remove the stone. They tell him not that's a bad idea, basically, because at this point Lazarus's body is probably stinking.
Smell.
He says, you're going to see the glory of God. So they remove the stone, and there's a moment that I think is really important. In verses 41 and 42, it says that then Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I knew that you always hear me, but because of the crowd standing around, I said this so that they may believe that you sent me." And so he takes a moment to pray. And a few weeks back at the prayer clinic in Grundy, me and Cabe got to hear a very impactful message for me by Paul Ponchot about the prayer of one. And he talked about Jesus's prayers. And it was built from the James passage that says the prayer of a righteous man can accomplish much. And we find here another moment where Jesus is praying to the Father, explaining his reasoning for praying, but it is essential that if we want to bear fruit, it is essential for us to pray and trust God, because he's the one that's going to accomplish saving. He's going to be the one. He is the one working through us to change lives and to grow the kingdom, and he's the one that's working on us to make us so that we grow in holiness, and we have to trust him to do that. And the best way that we do that is by going to him in prayer.
Tanner, to connect that thought with what we were talking about earlier, it's kind of been a theme throughout the whole podcast of not wasting a tragedy. I know a lot of people have experienced this, and I've certainly experienced it in my life. But when we go through a tragedy, when we have some kind of a trial or just really hard season we're going through, that can really be fertile grounds for a prayer life to grow healthier and stronger. And I know that when things are going rough, that's not the only time we should pray, right? Prayer should never be a last resort when we've tried to handle all of life's difficulties all on our own and we can't do it. And so we think, oh, well, I guess I'll pray about this. I can't handle it any other way. No, we shouldn't look at prayer like that. But I think, just speaking from my own personal life, some of the times that I felt like my prayer life has been the strongest and the healthiest has been during those tragedies, during those hardships, where it really teaches you uh, what it's like to lean on God and to rely on Him fully, to get you through those difficult seasons of life. And so this is important for us to know, whether or not we're currently in a tragedy or a season of life like that, that to not waste it. And one of the ways we can make sure we do that is to allow it to be a time for our prayer lives and our reliance on God to really grow. And that may prepare us for the next tragedy we come across if we're not currently in one, or that may prepare us to help out somebody, another person that's going through something really tough, and so we can kind of help them to learn not to waste that, and to try to have some good come out of an otherwise really unfortunate or tragic situation in life, that it may help us to actually grow spiritually.
Yeah. Gabe, what else do you have from this chapter?
Oh, well, I love that. We see that the next thing that happens, and when I preach this, I get real loud. I'm going to try not to do that. But Jesus goes, come forth, come out, And I'm sure we think, oh, that's amazing. But think about being there. He's saying, dead man, come out. And I'm saying, no, dead man, stay in. I don't want to see that. But Jesus has the authority over life and death, and so when he came out, I think he was wrapped up. He looks like a mummy. He had the clothes on, and so it wouldn't have been a beautiful sight, but it was one for Martha and Mary and for Jesus, because their brother and their friend, well, he's now alive, and I want us to notice that the reaction of the people. We know the Jewish people were there. They were comforting Mary and Martha. And then some of them wanted to go to the Pharisees. They were happy to mourn them, but now he's alive. What do? They tattletale. Can you believe what Jesus did? He raised him from the dead. And I want us to notice in verse 53, from that day on, what he did, they planned to kill him. They were still kind of going back and forth in the previous chapters we covered. They didn't like him, but they hadn't said that yet. But from now on, they want to kill him. And I want us to see if this didn't actually happen, if they weren't 100% sure that Jesus raised a man from the dead, that wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't have planned on killing him. And so this is just another reason. We have the same reasons to believe as those that were sitting there. We know that this actually happened, and we know that because of their reaction to it. And if Jesus can raise a man from the dead, he's God. He's God. And so if he says something like, whoever believes in me will have life eternal, well, if he can raise a man from the dead, we should probably believe him when he says that. And so this just is another reason we should have faith in Jesus.
Yeah. The last thing I have is in verse 54, following what you were just talking about. It says, therefore Jesus no longer continued to walk openly among the Jews, and he went away. And there's more to that verse there, but we talked about this before in past episodes. I think it's been a while though, but Jesus came, he entered the world at just the right time. He died at just the right time. He rose at just the right time. He ascended back to heaven at just the right time. And that's so, people ask questions like, why did God wait so long to send Jesus? People ask questions like, why did Jesus come then and not, now that we have the internet and ways to spread the news all across the world quicker and easier. But what the scriptures teach us and the way Jesus does things throughout the Gospels, we again and again see that it was God designed it and planned it and fulfilled it at just the right time. And Jesus, the way he approached his ministry, he approached it in such a way so that the time of his crucifixion would come at just the right time. And we know that it was just the right time, not just because the scriptures teach it. Well, the scriptures teach this part too. The scriptures teach not only, some of those things, but the scriptures teach that after his resurrection, because of the way that the world was in that present time, the gospel blew up and spread quickly and rapidly all over the world because of the timing. And it was in God's timing, and therefore it was at the right time.
That's good.
And you're right, we do have the internet now, so let's use it.
Yeah, and that whole argument frustrates me because it's like if Jesus came during this time and did the miracles, what would be said? That's AI. That's someone edited that. That's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Like give the same excuses. No, that can't be the case. It would just be more amplified. So
Yeah.
he came when he needed to come.
Something that I've noticed through, I told you all earlier, I've been preaching a series through the miracles of the Messiah is what I've called it. But the countless times and countless miracles, there are eyewitnesses that see it, and there's no way you can deny it, and they still refuse to accept it and refuse to believe. So should have God waited to send Jesus when we had video cameras? No, because the same people that rejected it back then, even though they saw it with their own eyes, they still would have rejected it even if we got a good video of it. Like you said, Kate, maybe they'd say it was AI or something.
Yeah.
The reason is it's hard. Heart's hard. Don't want to change lifestyle. Sin gets in the way. It's not knowing it's true. It's lying to yourself for the sake of saving, your own sins.
It's not a head problem. It's a heart problem.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else from this chapter?
I think we've covered it. And this is great stuff, guys.
Well, just as a reminder, Theology Nerds Live is this weekend. So that's going to be eventful. We are going up against Brian and Jason in our trivia match on Friday. Jake, you have the schedule in front of you. What's the actual time of our portion of that?
I had it pulled up on my phone. You'll have to give me 1 second to pull it up. While I'm finding that, why don't you take us into Song of the Week?
Well, I'll do that in a minute. Cade, are you ready to carry the trivia?
All I know is that I think we've been doubted. I think that everyone thinks we're going to get smoked. I know we're going against two Bible professors, but I think we might surprise some people, maybe for the good or for the bad. We'll see. But we're going to do our best. And I really think that it's going to be a fun time. So either way, I think this is going to be great.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say that the trivia is on Friday, November the 14th, from 7:30 to 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And you don't only have to see us. There's going to be all kinds of other events. It's on Friday and Saturday in Kent Christian Church in Madison, Indiana. So if you guys can make it out to that, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not just going to be our competition, that they're going to do a couple of live podcasts and a couple of teachings on Saturday. And they said they have some announcements to make when it comes to the movement and different things happening. And so if you can make it to that, you should. I think it's going to be a great time of fellowship and learning, because they're going to be doing some good teachings and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just, the intention of it is you can learn a lot through their podcast, and that they're going to. It's not just one, it's a time of fellowship, but they're also going to do some teaching, and there's going to be opportunity to grow in faith and things there. I am a little frustrated because when we all the way back at the beginning of this, one of my requests in our accepting of this was that we knew what the format was going to be for the trivia. And do you guys know what it is? Because I don't.
It's trivia. They're going to ask us Bible questions, and we got to answer. What else is there to know?
Well, it could be Jeopardy style, or it could be like you ask that side and then you ask this side. I just, because I'll just be straight. If it's Jeopardy style, we're done.
What do you mean we're done?
Don't tell them that. Don't give them ideas.
They're not the ones deciding it. CJ is.
Well, you should ask CJ.
Well, they're the ones that decided to bring up the trivia, so it's their responsibility to communicate the rules.
Well, fair enough.
And they're the ones that hired CJ to do it.
All I know is have some confidence, guys.
Talking about my what they talk about my integrity. Well, where's the integrity of telling me what's going on?
All I know is they've questioned your integrity, but not mine. So I'm like,
oh, okay. So you don't care. I got you. All right. Well, it's going to be a good thing, and I'm excited to see them and see you guys in person, and so it'll be a good event. We do have Song of the Week. I chose the song Indescribable, and I think this is originally Chris Tomlin's song, but it could be somebody else's. Chris Tomlin does a lot of re-singing songs, I think, but I originally heard this song when I was smaller. I was watching Louis Giglio thing on stars that are out in space, and his thing in that is, if the Earth was a golf ball the size of a golf ball, this is how many golf balls you could fit in this. The number of golf balls you could fit in 40 buses is how many Earths you could fit inside this star, type of thing. And it's really cool, but it opens up with this song Indescribable. And it just talks about the glory of God's creation and how vast it is. And it just shows, when you think about it, it just goes to show how impossible it is for this to be chance, for the existence of the universe to be chance. And I guess the thing that I like about the song is it says, indescribable, uncontainable. You place the stars in the sky and you know them by name. You're amazing, God, incomparable, unchangeable. You see the depths of my heart and you love me the same. You are amazing, God. So really cool song. It's a song that really worships. It's not all about me. It's about God. And so that's our Song of the Week.
Good stuff, man.
All right. Well, we thank you for watching, as always, or listening if you're on, Spotify or whatever you're listening on. We are always thankful. And don't forget to leave comments and tell Jacob to decorate for Christmas. And as always, go bear fruit and so prove to be one of Jesus' disciples.